very.
Welcome back to the After Hours podcast. I'm your host, Francisco. Co-host today, I have Daniel, and we are joined with Leandro from the Educated Barfly channel on YouTube. What's going on, man?
Thanks for having me, guys. I don't know. What's going on? You tell me.
Well, thanks for coming out. We appreciate your time. And, right now it's starting to warm up a little bit here in Ohio. So, good day here for us.
Yeah, it's a solid 40 degrees, which, I mean, to Ohio, that's like 70 in Florida. So
I'm not going to tell you how hot it is here because it's just going to make you jealous.
Where are you from?
I'm in LA. So,
right.
It's warm most of the time.
Yeah, for sure. That must be pretty nice. Well, I'm just going to get right into it. I mean, the LA scene in terms of cocktails, do you guys think that like the West Coast is pretty innovative and on top of the game when it comes to the cocktails?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the thing is that, LA became a really kind of hot, like, I'm not really sure how familiar you guys are with like the timeline of like what they call like the cocktail renaissance. But, it kind of started with Milk and Honey in New York, and then New York was kind of the hot place to be. And then when it was kind of established there, a lot of the New Yorkers kind of moved out to LA. And so LA was sort of the next kind of proving ground. I will say that LA is not a place that's really known very much for its, very fine dining as much as New York or like cutting edge. But that's really changed a lot in the last 10 years or so. And so, I think the bar programs has sort of followed along with it, especially that kind of culinary style of bartending that has kind of cropped up where they're using like really, really, kind of culinary techniques from the chefs that they're working with and, kind of farmers market, seasonal ingredients and what have you. So, yeah, I would say, yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I feel like Milk and Honey is the golden standard whenever we're talking about the cocktail experience for the bar industry.
Do you have any favorite personal ingredients when it comes to mixing cocktails?
I mean, I to tell you the truth, I was actually trained in the Milk and Honey style, so the bar that I worked in, where I was actually trained to make cocktails, because before that I was working in nightclubs, was a place. It was Cole's French Dip, which is where I actually worked until the pandemic hit, and where I launched Barfly from and everything. And, there is a bar in the back called The Varnish, which is owned by a guy named Eric Alpern, who was part of that Milk and Honey family. And he was running Little Branch. And I think he worked at Milk and Honey as well. Little Branch was one of the Milk and Honey offshoot bars. So my style of bartending is really simple and clean. I like to challenge myself to use 5 ingredients and under, which is a little bit of a challenge. I've been getting a little bit into the kind of culinary technique of like fat washing and stuff like that. But, honestly, I like bitter, brown, and stirred drinks. So I like whiskey mainly is kind of my passion, and rum has become a big passion. And then adding Amaros and vermouths into those drinks, stirring them to perfection, and then having a nice big rock of ice in there. That's kind of my preferred sort of ingredients to play with.
In terms of how well versed you are across like all spirits, so would you say like whiskey is your go-to, and then what would follow in terms of your knowledge and able to craft? Would it be vodka, gin, rum?
So rum is a little bit newer for me. Technically, my first love was whiskey, and then after that, I when I started getting into craft cocktails, I fell really hard for gin. Just because it is so nuanced and it is so different from producer to producer, with those kind of proprietary blends of spices. After that, I really fell hard for kind of vermouth and Amaros, because it's that same sort of idea of macerating, different botanical and citrus elements into something to create something just really singular tasting. And then rum is something that I'm embarrassed to say, quite honestly, I didn't really pay attention to rum very much for a very long time. And I had a very big hole in my knowledge when it came to rum. But rum is something that I've become incredibly passionate about, again, because it's just so different from producer to producer, from island to island. There's so many different ways that you can craft it. There are very few laws which kind of govern the way that it's produced. And so it is very open to innovation. And that can be sometimes a good thing, and that can sometimes be a bad thing. But it's just so varied that I think that it is really a contender for the whiskey throne. I think that people paid attention, especially in America, really paid attention to whiskey a lot more, but rum is really coming up.
Yeah, for sure. I was in the Caribbean, I think 14, and dude, the rum selection there is immaculate. Just, I don't know. It was awesome. That's about it.
I can imagine, man. I mean, one of the things that I really want to do is start doing some travel content with Marius and really running around and, kind of reaching out to producers and going to especially rum distilleries and especially Caribbean. Cause it's just, it would be like a kid in a candy store. I could just get lost there,
Oh, for sure. And it's hard too, cause I had just turned 18 at that time. So I can't remember specifically all the places we went to, but it was like St. Martin and St. Thomas down there. So it was a really good time. It was a good experience for sure. And awesome. I guess a hot topic is what type of alcohol or like what type of liqueur is the Jägermeister? Is it Amaro?
Oh, it is definitely Amaro.
Okay.
I mean, every German is going to argue with you. And, I did a Jägermeister episode where we did, like how to drink Jägermeister like an adult, which is kind of a clickbait title. But really what it was just sort of diving deep into Jägermeister because, I think it's unfairly classified as like everyone's first bad experience, and honestly, like anything that's macerated with a lot of herbs and stuff, typically will give you kind of a bad hangover, So if you drink a lot of Amaro, those hangovers are pretty rough, kind of like a wine hangover. But everyone's going to say, oh, it's schnapps, which from what I've gathered over the years is just a blanket term for anything above a certain ABV in Germany is called schnapps. It fits the definition for Amaro. And so I think that Jägermeister now is really fighting hard to kind of have it classified as sort of like a German equivalent to Amaro so that people take it a little bit more seriously because Amaro is becoming so prevalent now in the States. And they want to make sure that, they want to have their chilled shot machines, but they also want to be taken seriously and not be thought of as that sort of nightclub shot that everyone takes only.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, running back really quick to hangovers, with you being the king of making all sorts of recipes, what would you say is the best hangover recipe?
I think that, honestly, the only thing that really cures a hangover on the very rare occasion that I'll get one is a hair of the dog, like a shot in a beer. It's the only thing. I don't know why. I can't tell you the science behind why just getting yourself a little bit, tipsy, goes, it makes a hangover go away, but it doesn't. Maybe it's just that you get that little buzz and then you just forget about the pain. I would say, though, that everyone shouldn't be getting hangovers and everyone should be drinking responsibly.
Absolutely.
I have to say that.
Appropriate response.
I mean, you could also be dehydrated, just like you just need to get some water in your system. Make sure that, drink a cup for every glass that you drink. So that's usually my go-to.
Yeah, just so 12 ounces of H2O. It is absolutely dehydration. And that's why people who are smokers actually get worse hangovers than people who are not smokers. But yeah, 12 ounces of water for every drink that you drink should keep you hydrated. And, if you can't keep hydrated that way, maybe a little Pedialyte.
Oh, yes.
Would, hydrate you very fast.
Yes. So. That is my go-to every time, dude. Before I go to bed after having maybe one too many, definitely got to get some Pedialyte in your system.
It'd be kind of a funny video if you made like a clickbaity video is like something along the lines of the ultimate hangover recipe. And then it's just like, you're prepping the ice and everything. It's super clear ice. And then you just get a big glass of water, pour it, and you're just like, that's it. That's the video.
Yeah, that would be awesome. How to deal with a hangover.
Speaking of ice, there was one of your videos was how to make like the most crystal clear ice. And I have to say I've never seen someone make ice as cool as that. It was so cool.
It was cold.
Yeah. I mean, people don't realize that ice is such a hot button issue when it comes to like people who are, really into making cocktails, and everyone has all of these kind of ideas about how it's done. And, really the thing about unclear ice is that unclear ice is literally just gases trapped in the ice. It's not even imperfect. It's not even minerals and stuff really trapped in the ice. It's actually gas. And all of those gases freeze last. So if you can freeze it in a cooler, you can take tap water, put it inside a cooler and freeze it. And as long as you freeze it for 24 hours and you just allow it to freeze just enough that all of those gaseous elements that freeze last freeze into a little kind of skeletal. There's like a skeleton. It's like almost like a skeleton of a piece of ice with water in it. And then the top of it is just like this nice clear ice. If you can do that, you can make anything into clear ice, and it doesn't matter how many like, minerals are in that water.
Yeah, when I saw that, like the first thing that came to my mind was, okay, this is sweet, but what if you took a mold of a glass and then froze it and you get that same kind of like opening in the middle, and then the glass is the ice?
Oh yeah, you could do that. I mean, literally what you could do is you could just chop a piece of clear ice and then use like a drill bit, like a really, really thick woodworking drill bit, and then drill into it, and you can create a glass with your ice for sure. People do it with shot glasses all the time.
The only problem is you probably have a time limit as to how long you can have that glass sitting there.
Well, with a really big piece of ice, it's going to start melting pretty quickly, but you could have it for about 40 minutes before it's unusable. But the thing is that once you start putting liquids into it, it's also going to start melting from the inside as well. So
fair enough.
Your collection at home, what does that look like in terms of like the amount of bottles you've collected over your
do you want to see it? Here, are you guys seeing my video?
Oh, yeah.
Look.
Damn, you've amassed quite the collection there.
Yeah, I mean, it's really easy to amass a collection when companies will just give you everything they make.
I mean, hey, it's fair enough.
Yeah.
So at this point, a company will just be like, hey, do you want to taste what we can offer? Sure. And then they'll just send everything they make to me. So there's more alcohol there than I could ever drink, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'll never be stuck for an episode.
So does that mean like if they send you a couple bottles, do you feel obligated to then make a video on their product? Is that the type of relationship that's had?
No, I'm pretty clear about, kind of what the process is. I'm really choosy about what we make our videos on, and I really will only partner with a company that I really am behind the product and I like it for some reason, or find that it has some, sort of viable cocktail applications. So we don't just partner with anyone. And so when someone reaches out to me, I say, hey, that's cool. You can send us some samples and we'll sip it and see what we like about it. And if it's something that we really like, then we may make an episode. It just gets kind of like, it's a little bit of a dance with companies because, there are large companies and there are small companies. And at the end of the day, this is my job now. And so, we need to get paid for what we do. And, YouTube is, you get some money on ads, but it's not enough to support you. So it's really all about like, yeah, we might feature it, or I might, we do bottle reviews on a second channel now. So I might review it or something like that. But it just kind of really depends on the product and kind of what they want and sort of what kind of marketing they want for their product. And also, what it is and whether I like it or not, because I will, if there are companies that, if they said, hey, make a 10-minute video and it'd give you $100,000, I'd say no, because I just don't like their product. And it's not really about that for me.
Going back, you said you have another channel. What's that other channel called?
Oh, the other channel is called Barfly Free Pour. And so what we do there, it's funny how it kind of came about. We realized that when we started doing YouTube, people, they subscribe to your content for a very specific reason. And I had a little bit more we really had a little bit more ambition than just making cocktail tutorials. And there's a lot of different things that we wanted to do. But when we put that other content on the Educated Barfly, nobody would watch it because really they subscribed for cocktail tutorials and you sort of just get pigeonholed into this one thing. So what we decided to do was create a second channel, which we would just sort of brand it as the experimental channel and let everyone know that this is the experimental channel so that we could do a lot of various content. And what it kind of grew into was sort of, at first Marius was traveling a lot. This is right before COVID. And so he would bring back bottles from Norway or Poland or, stuff that we couldn't get in the States. And then we would start doing tastings of those. I was doing book reviews for a little while just because I really love cocktail books and I collect them, I'm kind of a nerd for them. And I just wanted to kind of share the content of those books with people. And that didn't do that well. And then we started doing just getting all sorts of, weird, bartender or bar gear and then doing gear reviews. So now we're doing kind of like gear reviews. I want to start interviewing people, interviewing authors of cocktail books to kind of supplant the just me talking about the book. thing. So that's going to be up and coming. And then also just going to like, we want to start traveling around, but COVID's really kind of put a damper on that. So eventually we're going to start traveling around and interviewing bartenders and sort of featuring the people that we really are inspired by.
That'd be really cool.
That'd be dope.
Is there any cool or unique bar gear? Like when you say bar gear, what kind of gear are you reviewing?
Oh, so Marius found a maraca shaker because he's just really into novelty items, and I always kind of roll my eyes at them just because they're novelty items, and they're most of them don't really have like real world bar applications. But it's funny because you would think that he's the straight guy and I'm sort of the wacky guy, but it's kind of like when it comes to bar stuff, it's sort of vice versa. Like I try to be kind of sober and very, informative. I want, we started this channel so that people could learn how to make really good, I don't know, for lack of a better term, sort of bar quality drinks at home. Like, you can be your own bartender and do as good a job as long as you learn the technique. And then he's just sort of into like, oh, well, this would just be fun. So like that, but then we found this thing called a smoke top, which is like this little kind of piece of wood with a little top hat on it. And you just put some wood chips in there and you put fire on it. You put it over a glass, and then the smoke, instead of rising, actually drops down into the glass, and the little top hat catches the smoke in there and it kind of smokes your cocktail. So it's a little bit easier to work than like putting a cocktail under a cloche with the smoking gun and everything. It's just kind of like a one piece thing, comes with its own wood, which is pretty cool. It's kind of some of the newer things, but then also just like, I don't know, different types of strainers, different types of like hand juicers. I don't know. Eventually we're probably going to do something on that flavor blaster that makes, smoke bubbles that you can put on cocktail glasses and stuff.
Cool. Are you familiar with the craft beer channel?
No, I'm not. Although I should be, because I'm pretty familiar with most drinking channels on YouTube. I watch most of them.
So we did an interview with them about a month ago, and they're coming up with some really cool inventions. So definitely something to look out for.
Oh, I should definitely check them out. Maybe reach out.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, definitely. You mentioned that you're a big fan of cocktail recipe books, reviews. In the modern era of cocktails, like how hard is it to be original in terms of creating drink experiences? Like, do you notice like a lot of times you are just taking like an already preconceived idea and then putting a twist on it, or like are you bringing like completely new ideas never seen before?
Let's just start with the idea that there's only like 6 or 7 actual original cocktails that have ever been created. And those cocktails are what I've always referred to, and actually what the Death and Company guys refer to. I think every bartender has sort of knows that what they're called are root cocktails. All right. So these are cocktails that are a category, but they're also a cocktail in and of itself. An old fashioned's a really good example of that. Okay. So you got an old fashioned, right? It's its own cocktail. If you ask for an old fashioned, someone knows what to make you, but you can take that structure of the old fashioned and break it down into its parts. And then you can supplant different ingredients to make a new drink, right? So, it's a 1/4 ounce of sugar, a couple dashes of bitters, 2 ounces of some spirit, and big raga ice and some type of citrus twist. If you do that, then that is an old fashioned variation. You can make any, the sky's the limit. The thing is that everything is going to be a twist off of something else, because we know that, right? So, I think that it's easy to be I think that everybody in some way is very unique, because I think that much like there only being a few different plots for movies, everybody interprets the ingredients in their own unique way, and their technique, how they put together the drink, is very singular to them. And so it creates a singular experience. It's kind of the same concept as like, if you pick up a Wolfgang Puck book, right, and you follow a recipe, your recipe is not going to be the same as Wolfgang Puck's, because what separates you from Wolfgang Puck is technique. He has all this technique to make these dishes really fantastic. And any cook that cooks that recipe is going to do it in a different way. So in a sense, it's really, really, really easy to be unique. I do think that some bars go a little too far by really, stuffing drinks with a lot of different recipes or using all sorts of technique that they don't quite understand so that they can stand out from the rest. And for me, I think that's a bit of a mistake. I think that keeping things really, kind of authentic to yourself and simple is going to give you the best result. And I think if you do that, then your drinks will always be completely different than anyone else's.
Well said. I really like the movie plot analogy as well. Is that there's limited amounts of movie plots, but everybody enjoys them and interprets them differently. Never heard that before. I really like that.
Right. It's like how many police thriller movies have we seen De Niro or Pacino in? And yet still I want to go see all those movies, right? Because it's the interpretation of the director of the material and then also the actors, right? The players in the script or in the movie that really give it like a singular vibe,
Yeah, for sure. We were talking about like novelty items. So how novel is a ice press and ones that can do specifically like diamond shaped ice?
They are novelty items. Well, I don't know. I'm kind of split on this because, doing diamond shaped ice and stuff like that is kind of a novelty, but at the same time, if you're putting that into someone's drink,
then it's like functional.
Then, it's functional. And not only is it functional, which I'm very much all about functional garnishes and ice is functional, but also, the very first thing that you do when you have a cocktail put in front of you is interpret it with your eyes, right? So the look of it is the most important thing, right? So I've always said to people that a really well-made cocktail that looks like crap is going to be less pleasing to someone than a really mediocre cocktail that looks like $1 million, because we can only experience things with our senses, and the very first thing that you're going to do is see that cocktail before you put it to your lips. And so for that reason, I think it's more of a novelty, and it's also a very easy way of making a ice sphere, like a perfect ice sphere to put your whiskey on. I gotta say that even if you put cloudy ice in a whiskey glass, just like a cube of ice that was frozen in a kind of a king cube Tavolo tray or something, you're going to get the same result, but the experience of it, the visual experience of it, is going to be a lot different. I do think, though, that it takes away from the bartender's theater a little bit. So like if you can learn to cut cut a diamond, then that speaks to such a bespoke experience for the person sitting across the bar from you that I think it's even better if you can kind of do things manually. I do like ice presses. I have an ice press and I use it on occasion. So I don't know if that was almost a non-answer, but yeah. I don't know. Yes. No, it's not I guess it's not just a novelty item. I don't know. I went on and on about the ice press. I don't think it's just a novelty item, but I also don't think it's necessary, I guess, is what I came to on it.
No, it's pretty sweet. I mean, it's unique for sure. But also, okay, the handcrafting of like literally cutting ice. How many people do you know that can actually do that and like do a diamond or something crazy like that?
I mean, I've been trying to do a diamond for months now and still haven't really perfected the facets. And I've been looking at tutorial after tutorial to try and figure it out because I really just want to make an episode where I can cut a piece of frickin' diamond ice. Because how awesome is that? I don't know that many people who can do it. I do know a lot of people that can take like a cube of ice and then cut it into a sphere. And then that sphere is, because you're doing it with an ice pick, it's got a lot of little like chips and nicks in it and stuff, which will even out over time because that ice will start to melt and those, it'll start to smooth that surface out. But I got to say that even that stuff is just like when it comes to service, that's not even necessary. When I first started working at Kohl's before the owner of the Varnish created penny pound ice and started just, custom making our ice for us, we would buy a big, 50-pound block from an ice company, and all the bar backs had a shift where they would have to come in and cut that ice into cubes. And then those cubes didn't quite fit in the glass. And so we would have to use an ice pick to, kind of cut that down for our old fashioned glass. And it was quite an experience for the viewer. Now, did it make things take a little longer? It did. And the thing is that everyone really, really appreciated that like hand cutting of ice for their drinks. it made people appreciate that drink so much more. And I was really sad when we stopped that to just streamline things. So I just don't think it's necessary. It's not necessary to cut crazy things, but honestly, dude, like that's why the Japanese always impress, right? Because they take the technique and they bring that to the next level, like diamond cut ice and stuff.
That's true. When did you first start your channel?
I started my channel in 2017. So just a little over 3 years ago. And I started it because, before I was a bartender, I worked in the film industry. And the reason why I got into bartending was so that I could have my days free to audition for commercials and movies and stuff, because I was an actor once upon a time. And I started in the nightclub industry where I could work 2 days a week and make a lot of money. And then the rest could just be kind of devoted to my craft. I started getting into cocktails when I got hired at Kohl's as a bar back and worked my way up pretty fast to being a bartender and got really nerdy about history. And as a result of that, I thought, I had this idea for a show that I brought to a friend of mine and said, hey, we should pitch this to some networks. And it was kind of about bartenders, sort of a kind of a chef's table approach to bartenders. So we shot this trailer, which was a really beautiful trailer, and we shopped it around to different agencies and different studios and stuff. And a lot of them were really interested, but they didn't want to let us make it because we didn't have track record as filmmakers. So we thought, you know what, let's try and put together a YouTube channel so that we could build a social network then we'll have more power if we can do that. If we can do that, then we can prove that we're good at what we do. And then we'll have more power to say we want to make this into a movie or into a TV show. And so that's how it started.
Any plans to continue with that?
Yes, but now the plans have changed in so far as like now we want to become our own kind of studio, and we don't want to have to play the red light, green light game with production companies that make things for TV. Because, we've grown enough now that we can get viewers to watch what we watch, and we have a little bit more clout going into a room to be able to just kind of make things on our own. And so we're really centering everything on YouTube at the moment.
Right on.
But we have more stuff we're doing, and some of it's secret, so I can't tell you guys. I'm sorry.
I love it. I love it. So that would explain why, because I noticed normally when YouTube channels start off, the quality is like, but like I noticed with your channel, like it was already starting off at a really good level. So I'm assuming that the film background probably helped out a little bit.
I mean, as far as like the way it looked, yeah, it looked pretty good. Although we have like Marius has definitely gotten better behind the camera and definitely a lot better at editing. Marius was a line producer on television shows and stuff for a living. And I met him when I was a production assistant on various commercials and stuff. That's how we met many, many years ago. And so that's how he sort of got kind of dragged into this, kind of filmmaking project and then eventually YouTube channel. I got to say, though, that when I look back at those episodes, they're very cringy to me because, I don't know, my on-camera persona, I just had no idea how to really do it. Like I didn't know how to host anything. And it was like, I was very like too straight and maybe nervous in front of the camera. And so when I look at those, I'm just like, oh, it was so bad. But I appreciate that you thought they were all right.
I mean, sometimes it's the cringy content that I like. Me personally, I'm a huge Office fan. So like, I like the cringy content. And like one example is like one of the videos I saw that I really liked. You're talking about bourbon Manhattans. I just like loved your take on that. But no, I mean, I personally, I love the cringiness.
I incurred a lot of like laughs from saying that I would, just don't tell me about your bourbon Manhattan and I won't slap you, I think is what I said in the video. But then I also got so much hatred for that.
Really?
Because the thing is that bourbon Manhattans have 80 years of history and people are really, there was one time a guy came into the bar and ordered a Manhattan and I gave it to him and he asked me if I made it with bourbon or rye. And I said, rye. And he said, why did you make it with rye? And I said, because that's traditional. That's the traditional drink. And we do things traditionally in this bar. And he goes, oh, well, I prefer it with bourbon. And I was like, that's cool. If you had told me that you preferred it with bourbon, I would have made it with bourbon. But then we got into this massive argument about it. And he was this older guy that just could not deal with someone younger than him knowing more about the history of something. And he was so, I mean, people get very crazy about their sort of like, their notions about cocktails and because it's just so personal, I think,
Mm-hmm.
Imagine throwing hands over the type of spirit that you get served at a bar. Oh man.
No, literally, it almost went there. Like he was really upset. Like he was really, and when people get upset and they're drinking, crazy stuff can happen.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sure you've seen your fair share.
Oh, especially literally working in a nightclub. I had to come over the bar at people twice a week, and I only had 2 shifts.
Your experience in a nightclub compared to like a traditional bar setting, what do you think is the pros and cons to each?
I mean, it just really depends on the bar. I mean, honestly, nightclubs on the weekends are filled with a bunch of amateurs that want to, as far as like drinking, there are a bunch of amateurs that want to dance to house music. And that's what we dealt with. And so it wasn't really about the quality of the drink or anything like that. We're not measuring anything. We're literally just going like this. I don't know. No one can see me because this is a podcast, but we're like, just straight pouring things out of bottles. When we would make adioses, I would grab all of the clear spirits in 2 hands at once and do like a 3 count pour into a glass. Put some sun-kissed sour mix into it, a little bit of Coke and some ice, and call it a day. That's just it's not really about the drink quality. It's about getting drunk, listening to house music. And for us, it's about just turning customers over. And you're always, 5 to 10 people deep at the bar for the entire time. It was great training for working in a cocktail bar, though, because when I finally made it to a cocktail bar, the bartenders were getting all flustered and they had like 4 customers. And I was like, this is not busy, guys. This isn't busy. And so it was good. It was a good training ground.
Yeah, it sounds like quite the time. You have to deal with all sorts of interesting characters at the bars. What about when it comes to the YouTube comments? Do you even look at that, or you just completely turn away from the comments? Because I know there can always be YouTube trolls out there.
I mean, there's a ton of trolls, although we don't get hit with trolls so much as we get hit with people who want to argue about cocktails or sort of prove me wrong. And to tell you the honest to God truth, coming into YouTube and telling everybody that I was an experienced bartender when I did it is one of my, I don't know if it's like a real regret, but like if I had just pretended that I didn't know anything, then I would get forgiven for some of the stuff that I get wrong. But to tell you the truth, like the YouTube channel for me has been as much a learning experience for me as it has been for people watching it. It's just that the lessons that I'm learning are a little bit different than the lessons that other people are learning. And I've taken it as a way to learn a lot. That said, people approach the channel, and especially maybe because of my demeanor, like my natural demeanor, they come to it thinking that I kind of have branded myself an expert. And so they just love jumping on the things that I get wrong and really rubbing my nose in it. I do not consider myself an expert. I think I have some expertise in cocktails because I've made them for so long, but there are so many other styles of cocktails like tiki cocktails that I didn't know very much about going into the channel that I've really dived deep into to learn about. What's great about having a platform, though, is that the people who are experts or are the kind of tastemakers of those particular forms of bartending will take me seriously when I approach them and say I want to learn from them.
Do you have like a Discord or like a Patreon or anything that like your loyal followers support you on?
Yeah, we have a Patreon that we've had for a few years, and we do a little bit of we do some bespoke like video content on there. We also do ad-free videos, and then we also have a Discord that it's not part of the Patreon or anything. It's like pretty much anyone can join our Discord, where we have like the diehard fans are on there for sure. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, make sure to check that out.
Yeah, the Discord's cool, and we also do like Zoom happy hours and a few other things that don't go out to the YouTube that I'll do with the like diehard fans just because it's fun and we have a lot of good times, and there's just a lot of really good conversation about spirits and cocktails on there.
All right, this might be a really stupid question. I might just be an uneducated, uncultured swine, but what is the inspiration behind the name, the Educated Barfly?
Well, okay, so it's funny because a lot of people think that the term "the educated barfly" was a term that I was saying that I am the educated barfly, and that's not what the the idea behind it was. The idea behind it was is that the viewers are the educated barfly, because we knew that we were making content for mostly people who weren't going to be working bartenders, that there were going to be home bartenders. We've always geared it towards home bartenders, a lot like my little kind of cheesy Wolfgang Puck analogy that I made earlier. The point of the channel was always about history and technique, and then recipes as like a second. And then the other thing that I wanted to do with the Educated Barfly was really sort of feature the bartenders' recipes that I'm inspired by. So it's always been about like, sort of like a celebration of the bar world and the cocktail world, and not just about my own talent. And so the Educated Barfly term is not about me. It's about the audience. That being said, people just sort of assume that it's supposed to be me. But I mean, if we're going to really break it down, a barfly is someone who likes to hang out in bars. And although I am a barfly, I'm also a bar professional, or I was until COVID. So I don't know if I would really qualify as a barfly. Maybe I would now. I mean, maybe it is me, or maybe we're all educated barflies, but that's sort of what we wanted it to be.
Okay.
So when COVID's over, I think that's happening sometime soon. I don't know. Do you plan on going back to the food industry, or are you going to stay mostly, food and beverage industry? Or are you going to stay mostly at home trying to work on your craft?
Oh, man, I don't know. I'm so torn about this because I really, when COVID hit, I was at a point where I was working in the same bar for 9 years, and I was really burnt out on it, And the other thing is that I don't think that I could go back to working until 3:00 in the morning anymore. Like I've done it for over a decade, and I just really don't think I could do it. That said, I really, really, really miss the interaction with people over the bar. And so like, I've actually been doing Zoom classes for companies, have been reaching out to me to do Zoom classes and teach people how to make cocktails in a more intimate setting. And that's been really nice just because I sort of get that interaction, but it's really nothing like being in a bar. And so I've toyed with the idea of maybe either doing like one shift or something like a week, or doing like research and development shifts at different bars. I've also thought of like this idea where I kind of wanted to rent a Winnebago or like a mobile home of some kind, and sort of do a bartending tour where I hit different cities and I do like 2 hours to 3 hours in a different bar every night. Kind of like the way a band would go on tour. So I have these ideas poking around, but I don't think I could go back full time because I just don't have the time. And once COVID is over and we're able to all be in the same room without worrying about it, I'm going to start traveling a lot and making some travel content and doing some fun stuff with Marius that we have cooking up. So I don't think I could actually have a job doing that anymore, but I would like to maybe figure out a way to be behind the bar occasionally.
I like the traveling salesman idea and going on tour. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, if bars would let me do it, I could just like go in, get a brand sponsor and have that brand basically like even pay the bar and pay me. And then everyone's getting paid, and sort of use that brand and then create, just make sure to partner with some awesome brands and then create a menu of cocktails and then just like execute them for a few hours would be awesome. And then I just go city to city, which would be really great. I don't know if I'm like well known enough to entice people to let me do that, but I would really love to.
Yeah, I mean that's like a separate like business idea, honestly, like, especially in big cities. I know they have like the what is it? It's like the nurses program where they have nurses that move from like hospital to hospital within a certain city depending on how they're staffed. So, I mean, you could, in theory, do that in like the bar industry too. So it's the idea.
Yeah, you could.
The idea is that like, you have X amount of bartenders available, and then depending on where you're staffed throughout like LA, who needs the most help, you would then divide up the workers across those different bars. That's what healthcare systems do sometimes as well with nurses.
Yeah, I've actually had a bunch of those nurses as regulars at my bar. Yeah. I actually learned about this type of nursing from having a lot of them just like, oh, I'm just stationed in LA for a few months or whatever. And it's actually really profitable and kind of cool. And they can travel internationally doing that, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that's viable in the food and beverage industry?
I mean, I don't know if I would scale that as a business myself, just because I think that I think that I just don't have the time for it. But what I would do is like get a mobile home and get a whole bunch of bartenders, maybe 3 or 4 different bartenders that have social media followings that I think are talented, and then just do that as like a tour every year or something.
Oh, that'd be sweet. Bring the band back
and
together.
making, and we can make content while we're doing it as well. I don't know. I feel like I'm giving away all my good ideas on this podcast, but it would be kind of a fun thing to do. So if there's anyone listening out there that represents any brands that wants to help us on this idea when COVID is over, give me a shout.
Absolutely. And you said that you're excited to start traveling again. In terms of continental U.S. travel, where are you most excited to, and then also abroad?
Ooh, oh my God, man. Continental US, I could spend years just going through there. But honestly, I want to go back to my hometown of Boston, which has a ton of really great bars and bartenders that we've been featuring some of their recipes that I'm just really want to sit at their bars. I want to go to Austin, Texas. Austin, Texas is really kind of going off. And then also on top of that, the company that I worked for that owned Kohl's actually has a couple of bars in Austin that I'd like to check out their versions of their bars, their version of an LA bar in Austin, because they kind of started not franchising, but they started making multiple locations for certain bars we have here in LA. So definitely Florida, like Miami is a great place. I could still go to New York and go to bar after bar after bar after bar after bar and probably never scratch the surface of how many great places there are to go in that city. But it's going to be an interesting world after COVID, and there's that industry got hit so hard that it's going to be, I don't know, like we'll see what happens. We'll see how many places are left. I really hope that a lot of the great ones weather the storm,
I mean, New York is unbelievable. Like you said, I mean, you can't even scratch the surface, really. I mean, I'm excited to go there soon. So,
and let's not forget, just like on the West Coast, man, let's not forget Portland has an amazing cocktail and food scene. San Francisco, again, has an amazing cocktail and food scene. I want to go back there. Marius and I did a little run around in San Francisco when we were there collaborating with a few people and visiting, and there are just so many great bars there. San Diego, again, it's like another place that we could just travel to really quickly. Mexico City, which will be international, but still on our West Coast here and drivable for us. So it's just like, I don't know. I mean, I want to see it all, I guess. Internationally, like Paris, London. I'd like to go to Dubai. Has a lot of amazing stuff going on. There's just, I don't know. Sky's the limit. Every city, I think, in the world has got great cocktail bars now.
It's pretty much essential to being like a metropolitan hub, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. And, the quality of bars, like if you go to Hong Kong or like Singapore, like the quality of bars, it's just like, like in Asia, like Japan, I mean, they're going just insane, like mind blowing experiences.
Yeah, to be honest, when I think of like cocktail bars, I mean, Asia usually isn't the first thing that comes to mind, but like from what I've seen online, it's like they really do have some crazy stuff going on over there, from like the architecture of the building to like then the drinks that are being served. So that might be a new region to dial into, I guess, and take note of.
Yeah, definitely Hong Kong and all. I mean, Japan is like long established as like a cocktail hub, and they do some amazing stuff there. They have the very singular style of bartending, which has been interpreted and reinterpreted. That it's just something that I need to experience because it's just so unique, to them. But Hong Kong definitely and Singapore are the two other places that are just supposed to be like, just things are going crazy there, and there's a lot of. Singapore just imported employees only. They put a location there. So, there's some like kind of known entities that are going into these cities, but then there's a lot of pretty amazing stuff going on as well. So definitely worth a check out.
Employees only. That's the bar up in New York, right?
Yeah. They have a location in LA now too, but
cool.
Yeah, that's a guy named Dushan Zarek and a few partners opened up employees only in New York first. And then they have one in LA, and then they opened one in Singapore, or they were opening one in Singapore. I'm not sure what's going on with COVID now. And I kind of feel like I've been out of the loop as far as like bartenders go because I've been stuck inside for a year, but hopefully I'll get back in the loop when this is all over.
Yeah. I mean, apart from traveling, what are you looking most forward to when COVID's over?
Oh man, just fucking seeing my friends. Sorry for I don't know if I could swear, but
Fuck it, bro, you're
just
good.
like seeing my friends and being in the same room as people and not having to worry about, getting sick would be like my dream. I don't know, just being able to go sit at a bar and just have a chat with someone and a drink would be, I don't know. It's like a dream of mine now.
Who'd have thought?
It really is.
I know it's crazy, but it's just like those simple things. Like, I don't want to go too crazy, and, the travel aside, literally just being able to hang out with my friends would be what I'm looking most forward to, I think.
Yeah. Cause LA, I mean, you guys take it pretty serious, right? Like in terms of all of the lockdown rules and quarantining.
Oh yeah. Well, not only that, but we also have the corona virus California strain or whatever that's supposedly led to a big spike or whatever, and everyone's kind of trying to figure out what's going on. The other thing that I look most forward to is both my kids going back to school and not being on Zoom at home anymore.
Oh boy, I did not know you had kids. How has that been, being a teacher pretty much at your own house?
It's been rough because I am not qualified to teach anything other than cocktails. And not only that, but also they have become very well aware of what I do for a living. And my daughter asked me the other day, if my teacher asks me what you do for a living, what should I say? What should I tell them you do? Which kind of stumped me for a second. And I landed on, just tell them I'm an entrepreneur.
Just say that you make YouTube videos.
That's right. Yeah. She's like, should I say you're a YouTuber? I'm like, yeah, if you want to, that's true, I guess. I don't know if I like the term that much, but it's true. Yeah.
What's better, influencer or YouTuber?
I hate influencer because you get lumped. There's a couple of different types of influencer. First of all, I don't know how much influence I have. I mean, I guess I have some influence because we're sitting here on this podcast and stuff and you wanted to talk to me, but I got to say that like there are those people who have a talent at something and they are influencers because of that. Like, would you consider Eric Andre an influencer or a comedian?
Oh,
he's got 2 million subscribers on Instagram, right? So he's an influencer, but he's good at something, right? But then there are those influencers that are just famous for being famous, I think, right? Like they don't really do anything. They just sort of like take selfies and sit on Bugattis and they don't really do anything, right? And there's no talent. So I don't want to be lumped in that category as far as an influencer goes. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to feel like disparaging anybody, but I feel like I have a talent. So maybe.
Well, I mean, I feel like similarly to like YouTuber, because YouTube is so vast that like you can really be in any niche of YouTube. Whereas like you could also be an influencer in any space, even if it's just like for being famous on top of being famous.
Right. I mean, but the thing is, though, is that there's a difference between the person who is a YouTube person and someone who is like an Instagram person. And I'll say this, even though it takes a lot of effort and a lot of work, it does take a lot of work. Like anyone who's just doing like, let's say like a fashion Instagram thing, like it's a lot of work to like take those photos and really, make a success. It's a job. It's like it's a big job. I will though say that like the same for YouTube. Like YouTube is not easy to do. There's a lot of people who try to get like their own channels started and then they realize it's not an easy thing to do. It's really hard. It is a full-time job. It is a 24-hour a day job. Like I'm on the phone with Marius talking about stuff like probably 6 hours of every day if we're not shooting, and then all constantly thinking about it and planning content. So I don't want to like disparage anybody in that sense because they really do, it really does take a lot of effort to sort of build this kind of thing. But that said, there are some people out there that don't actually do anything like juggle or something or like, or like pranks or like whatever it is. I think that YouTube is a little bit more filled with people who are like showcasing some type of talent, whether it's comedy or pranking people or cocktails or something.
Okay. I can see that. I'm like digesting that. I'm trying to think about it more. Thinking about it too is YouTube. You do have to have something that is a bit more engaging in order to keep that entertainment level, right? Whereas like I'm thinking more on like Instagram. I mean, you don't even like look at posts and you like them sometimes just scrolling through your feed. So, I mean, I'm just thinking about the different platforms and I'm just overthinking it, but
It really is a job though if you want it to take off though, especially on YouTube. I know like my own personal YouTube channel, I just made videos here and there just for the fun of it. And then like I just got really lucky on one specific video. And this is going way back. Like 30 minutes ago, we were talking about how like when you get a niche, you have to stick to that niche because like, for example, what I did was I mixed drum corps music with mainstream music. So like I took like drum lines and I mashed that on top of some sort of song. whenever I made anything outside of that after that first video blew up, just might get 50 views, but then like everything else would get like 10 to 50,000 views. So like that was definitely, you really hit that right on when it comes to like once you get that niche, you got to stick to it. And there's like so many things like that where you have to recognize with YouTube, where if you don't play YouTube's rules, then like your channel's not going to strive as much as it could.
Oh, right. Oh, definitely. And not only that, but also they will, like they basically take a look at like what hits the most, and that's what they're going to push,
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of your job is sort of trying to figure out like, okay, well, what's going to hit the most so that we can get them to push our content, because, if they don't push your content, you will grow a lot slower than if they do push your content. I don't know. We're getting a whole like bunch of like SEO and all this like crazy kind of like building channel stuff. I don't know. I guess the point that I was trying to make is like, is there a difference between someone who's doing something on YouTube, like as a, this is what they're interested in, even if they're just making short films because they want to be a filmmaker. Is there a difference between that and then someone who's like on Instagram, who fills like a kiddie pool with roses and then takes a picture of themselves and says they're at the spa? It's like they're like promoting this lifestyle that they're faking, right? So like it's like what's the difference between? I mean, it takes just as much work to do the other. I just don't want to be lumped in that category.
Yeah.
I guess that's what so like influencer to me it kind of like speaks to that sort of like, anything for fame. And, I didn't get into this to be famous. I didn't get into this to be well known. When I started my channel, I didn't think anyone would watch it. I was literally just doing it because I hoped people would watch it. But at the same time, I was kind of doing it for myself too,
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that you were from Boston. In terms of sports, how much of a Boston fan are you?
I am the son of two immigrants, one from Italy and one from Argentina. And although I grew up with a lot of sports because my friends watched them, I never really got into like American sports. Like I went to baseball games when I was a kid. I went to hockey games when I was a kid. I never went to an NFL game, I don't think, but I was never really into it. I was more into soccer than anything else. And that's what my dad was really passionate about. And so that's what we kind of bonded over. So, nowadays I really like watching hockey. I love watching hockey. I don't watch it as like, I'm not a diehard fan of hockey as much as I am like soccer or something like that. But I'm a bad person to talk to about sports, especially Boston sports, because I know nothing.
Okay. I mean, being from Boston, I know most people, Tom Brady's the GOAT. So most people rep him if they get the chance. But
no. I mean, they're really passionate, but it's just not I wish it could be my thing because it would make things a lot easier for me, especially when I meet new guy friends, and that's the one topic they want to talk about. I'm like, sorry, I can't talk about that. We can talk about cocktails, talk about history, talk about a lot of things, but can't talk about sports.
Bring up, like someone brings up football and they just start throwing names out and you're just like, uh-huh.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he really popped off for that home run in the ninth inning, like a touchdown in the third quarter. But you did mention hockey and soccer, which are also my two favorite sports.
Here we go.
In terms of allegiance to a football club, do you have one?
I chose Liverpool like many, 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 many years ago. I chose Liverpool, and I sort of always stuck with Liverpool through thick and thin. Does that make me a bit of a poser? Yes, because I'm not British. I'm not from Liverpool. They just, they just captured my imagination at some point, and I just adopted them as my team. That said, my father grew up in Milan, and he's a massive AC Milan fan. So, I also do have a little kind of allegiance to sort of AC Milan. And then also my mother's family are diehard River Plate fans. So they're all from Buenos Aires and they're all very big River Plate fans. So I sort of split my allegiance between Argentina, the Serie A Italian clubs, and then my own kind of fascination with the Premier League.
Yeah, it's very rare that you get a mix of Argentina, Italy, and the Premier League. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Liverpool that's the team that I'll get up at 4:00 in the morning to watch matches for. The other two are mainly just because they're like, I don't know, they're just like I have a family tie to them, so I kind of feel like I have to.
For sure, and also like River Plate. Do we even get those games streamed in the U.S.? Like, are those a thing?
Yeah, you can. There's like, there's like Latin channels or like Spanish channels that will show Argentinian matches, although not with any regularity. Like you can't get like a whole season ticket the way you could like Premier League matches. Although I gotta say that, about maybe about 7 years ago or so, it was difficult to even watch Premier League matches, and you would have to subscribe to like Setanta Sports on your cable provider and pay extra, or like pay extra for Sky Sports to be able to watch it. Or I'd wake up at like before the kids were born, I would wake up at like 4:30 in the morning and go to a bar that would open specifically to watch Premier League matches and serve breakfast and stuff. So, I was doing that as well, and kind of meeting some friends over there. Now it's really easy to watch. Like it's everywhere and you can get on the internet.
All right.
It's like the Americans have finally gotten there with soccer, I think.
I hope so.
And going back to cocktails. So what is the process for making a video?
There's really not that much of a process behind it. Sometimes I'll do some, obviously I've got to do some research if there's history involved or something, or every now and again I'll do testing if there's a technique that I am not too sure about. Because nobody wants to watch me do shit for the first time on the YouTube. And then also people kind of operate under the assumption that I'm the expert. So I just need to make sure that it all, kind of pops off. We do a lot more editing than we used to though now. So now we can hide mistakes better than we used to. But basically, I don't know, like Marius and I sort of discuss something that we think will be an interesting topic, or something that's interesting to the viewers. And then I'll start to put together sort of a menu and start to research. Like I kind of there's some go-to bartenders that I have that I'm just a really big fan of, or that I know personally, and I'll kind of go to them. And it's really kind of always concept driven, like especially because, YouTube is all about having the good thumbnail and having a great title to get people to click on it, and then you have to have a good opening to make sure that people like stay for more than 10 seconds. So we try to find things that are sort of compelling, but I also have built my channel on sort of not like a really big, like it's not like a really set structure, but it's a structure in that, like when we first started, we started with all of the easier classic cocktails and we sort of progressed into harder, more advanced stuff. So, the kind of like, if you were new to the channel, it would behoove you to start at the beginning and sort of go to what we're doing now, because it's kind of built on this structure of like easier to harder and more advanced. And so we kind of take that into consideration when we're thinking of episodes as well.
Okay. And so you mentioned that there's a lot more editing that goes into your videos now. So is there anything interesting that maybe the average YouTuber isn't seeing that's happening behind scenes? Has like any interest?
There's a ton of banter that goes on between me and Marius, and a lot of ball breaking. And, Marius and I, it's funny because Marius and I have a very good relationship. We're really good friends, but we're good friends to the point where we can sort of like rag on each other the way that family would. And I'm also from Boston, which is like, so I have like a PhD in breaking balls. I really do. So the thing is that there's a lot of ball breaking and stuff that goes on. We used to put that ball breaking into the videos, but half the viewership really loved it. And half the viewership were like, man, he's so mean to his camera guy. That we thought, maybe this is kind of reflecting negatively on us and people just don't understand that we actually are good friends and it's all just in good fun. So we kind of stopped doing that a little bit as much. And we kind of edit a lot of that stuff out. But then there's also like, sometimes I'll make a mistake. I'll drop something on the floor. We used to leave this stuff in, but we just got so much weird engagement from it that we also just kind of realized that people want to see good editing because they want it to be visually appealing. And when we first started, we wanted to do everything in one take so that you're watching the cocktail come together in real time, which you still are watching it come together in real time, because now instead of shooting with one camera, we shoot with 3 cameras that have 3 different angles and we just cut between those angles mainly. So it's still in real time, but it's just more visually appealing, I think.
Yeah.
How much harder is it going from 1 camera to 3?
I have the really bad habit of looking into the wrong camera.
Okay.
And so we sometimes have to reshoot because my eye line looks like I'm looking off. And then the other bad habit that I have, which is a little challenging for me, is that instead of addressing the camera, which I still feel kind of weird about and a little awkward about, is that I talk to Marius and look at him instead of into the camera lens. So that's I think kind of the challenge. Otherwise, like one of them's on a close up of my face and I'm not really aware of it, and the other one's close up on the drink. So, and I'm not really aware of it. So, you know, it's fine. It's just playing to that one camera, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm the best on camera guy. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. I don't know.
Pretty good, to be honest.
I know how you can fix the whole looking into the camera thing. What you do is you set up a teleprompter, and instead of it being words, it's just your cameraman's face.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. We actually tried the teleprompter thing, but with words, and it sounded like I was reading because I'm terrible at doing teleprompters. I don't know how, honestly, when I tried to do a teleprompter, we did it for one episode. Everyone knew that I was reading. Even when I see other channels that do it, like there are other channels that I've watched that use a teleprompter, and I can tell they're using a teleprompter, even if they're being really natural about it. But like someone like John Oliver on Last Week Tonight, he is so natural. He is absolutely reading off a teleprompter. I don't know how he does it. That is a talent. I don't think I'll ever be able to do that. It's just not in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, there's something about reading a script where it's just harder to come off naturally. Because I mean, I have a media communication background, so I've done a lot of teleprompter reading, and there's just something about it, looking at a script versus just speaking your mind out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more concise, and it's a lot better information. Because the thing is that my tendency is to be a little bit all over the place and sort of like, we want to kind of make it more concise and more linear because I don't really think or talk that way. And we thought that might be better for our channel, and it just really wasn't. And I just had to sort of like lean into my quirks and say, well, that's what makes our channel different than everyone else's.
100%.
Yeah. Embrace your uniqueness.
Right.
I know. I don't know if you're familiar with Casey Neistat, like one of the really big bloggers on YouTube.
Who isn't?
Yeah. Okay. Good. Good.
Once you start making YouTube channels, you're automatically aware of Casey Neistat.
Good. I guess the reason that he wore glasses in every single video was because he was really bad about looking into the camera. So that way he would have his sunglasses on in every video. He didn't have to look directly at it. He just had to have his face in the shot. It's a
brilliant workaround. I wish I was that innovative because it's brilliant. And then not only that, it became his signature,
So
that's pretty cool.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think you would be able to get away with that. But yeah, Casey killed it on that one. That was pretty smart. So
yeah, I definitely wouldn't be able to get away with it. They'd just be like, he's just trying to be Casey Neistat.
Just trying to hide a hangover.
Hey, I mean, if I had like a quarter of the talent of Casey Neistat, I would be a happy man. He is a talented dude.
For sure.
Absolutely.
He still hasn't made his return yet to YouTube, right?
I don't think so.
I didn't think so.
What do you mean? Is he just posting like what is he doing? Is he just posting old content or something? Is he not posting?
Is he posting?
No, I really I don't follow him at all, but I just know that there was a period in 2020 in which he took a prolonged period of absence.
I mean, I think he makes something like $45 million a year, so he can afford the break.
Yeah, fair enough.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, no, he's one of those because he got into YouTube early, and so for a very, very long time, up until about 2016 when they changed the rules, YouTubers could make a lot of money, and then the YouTube changed the rules, and it got a little bit worse for creators. But yeah, no, he's done very well for himself.
Okay, so beside Casey, in your YouTube subscription feed, who else would we find there?
Well, just so everybody knows, I subscribe to every single cocktail channel.
Okay.
Every single one. Then on top of that, cocktails aside, there are some very obvious people that I like. I don't think I subscribe to Casey Neistat, although I should, because I do watch Casey Neistat videos and I like him a lot. Who else? What are the other YouTubers that I really like? This guy, Glenn and Friends cooking channel is pretty dope. He's pretty awesome. There's Peter McKinnon, camera stuff. I don't even do camera stuff, and I just like watching his channel, and I like watching he really inspires me on the travel stuff that he does, and sort of he just has really beautiful photography. He's a really good host. He's like an engaging personality, and so I like watching his videos as well. I don't know. I'd have to take a look at my subscription feed to see. I don't know. I'm kind of blanking, but we do subscribe to a lot of channels.
Cool. Right on.
All right. Going back to your channel, do you have any favorite episodes that you've created?
Well, one of my favorite episodes was the very first Negroni episode. And the reason why it's my favorite is because I thought it sucked so bad that I refused to allow Marius to release it. And so we sat on it. This was at a time that it was before we were filming in my kitchen. We were filming at a friend of mine's like home bar. And, she had graciously allowed us to film there. And I just hated this episode. I thought I just did such a bad job on it. And so we sat on it for months and months and months. And then finally a time came about where like he had some job come up or something and we couldn't film and we didn't have anything to release. And so I was like, just release it. And it was the very first video that, I mean, we've never had a viral video, but for us, it went viral. Like it was like we were doing, 300 views on every video. And it was the first one that went to like 3,000 or 4,000 views. And I was just totally wrong about it.
I swear. That's always how it happens. I know. I think it was the last YouTuber we were talking to. Same thing happened. Like me personally, I just threw a video out there, wasn't expecting anything to happen, and then just blew up. That's like, I feel like it's just a part of the YouTube way. You have to release a video that you completely hate, and then it's just going to go viral.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, or it just also goes to show that you are not a very good judge of the content that you're creating, basically, because maybe you're just too close to it or something. But then other than that, like my favorite episodes are always the ones where I get to do really advanced technique. And those are the ones that nobody wants to watch because YouTube is all about people who want to make very quick and easy drinks. They use our channel mainly as like kind of like a cocktail book where it's just like, what am I going to make this weekend? Oh, I'll see what the Educated Barfly is doing and maybe I'll make those drinks, So anytime I do something that's like really involved, it doesn't get a lot of views. But I enjoy those videos the most because I get to have more fun than just putting together easy cocktails.
How long does it take you to prep everything for a shoot?
Nowadays it doesn't take very long. On the day of or just like total time with concept to completion?
Like all your materials and then setting up the lights and then the cameras.
So nowadays we don't have to set up the lights anymore because our set is in my garage, which is what I'm in now. And so we have a permanent set of lights that are just up always. So we just have to turn them on and walk in.
Okay, cool.
So we used to have to drag all the lights out and set them up. And it would take 2 hours to just set up all the lights around my kitchen. So for the first 2.5 years of the channel, we've only been in this new set for actually very, very recently, only for a few months now. So now it's very easy, but, just like making sure I have I have to go. The thing is that I don't fake anything on the channel. So like everything is fresh and everything is made. I don't use colored water for booze. I'm actually using real booze. We're making real cocktails. So because of that, I got to go shopping that week and make sure that I get like everything that we need for each cocktail. And if we're doing, we'll do sometimes 3 videos a day. So we'll be doing like 9 cocktails in one day. I have to make sure just to have all those things. So it just takes a little bit of time of shopping and then just like making sure the set looks good and kind of figuring out what we want to feature in the background. Lately, I've been doing a thing where I've been putting different, kind of Easter eggs in the background. I had Buzz Lightyear up there for a little while. Sometimes we'll put dinosaurs in there. We'll put little Easter eggs to see if people can find them. So it's a little bit of thinking about that and then just making sure that we're organized. So I don't know, a few hours. I mean, the whole day revolves around the shoot, like from the time that I wake up to like making sure everything's here to then Marius getting here, making sure that he sets up the cameras and white balance and all that.
If you want to start some real controversy, you could hide the Potato Man somewhere in your scene.
The Potato Man? What, Mr. Potato Head?
Yeah. Did you hear about that?
No, what's that?
Man.
I haven't heard this either.
You haven't?
No.
There's this huge controversy now. They're changing it from Mr. Potato Head to just Potato Head, I think, for whatever corporate reason. And just there's all sorts of backlash about it.
Oh, that's hilarious. I got to look this up. Yeah, maybe I'll put, we have Mr. Potato Head. We have all those toys. Like I basically just go to my kid's room and find some toy that's, anything Disney, Pixar, Lego, like any of those things, like people will comment on because they're all, there's like, big fan bases behind those.
Oh yeah.
So we'll kind of hide those in the set.
Pixar is definitely my favorite.
or video game stuff. I don't know. A lot of people don't realize that I'm kind of a nerd and a little bit of a fanboy. So, I play video games and I, read comics and I do all the nerdy stuff. So I play tabletop RPG games. I don't seem like I would be that person, but I actually enjoy all that stuff a lot. So
have you ever thought of making like a nerdy cocktail?
Like what? Like a pop culture influence cocktail?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've done it in the past, but our pop culture influence cocktails just don't do that well for some reason. I think Greg from How to Drink has the corner on that market,
Gotcha.
So we just don't like whenever we do those cocktails, it's just like they either tank. Like we did a orange whip from the Blues Brothers, and we did it like Ramos Gin Fizz style, worked really hard on the recipe, and it's a really awesome recipe. And I, even put in a new technique in there, acidulated orange juice, like basically taking orange juice and adding malic acid and citric acid to make it lime strength so that it's less sweet and more tart into the recipe and everything. And it just didn't get any more views than anything else. It may have even gotten a little less views. So we tend to not do that as much. Although we do viewer created cocktails, and we've had a bunch of people who have put forth movie inspired viewer created cocktails. So we're actually making that episode soon.
Oh, cool.
I was just going to move into some fun and off topic questions if you're cool with that, Dan.
You know what, Frankie? I am cool with that.
Yeah. So you're from Boston. What would you say is your favorite hometown restaurant?
Oh, my favorite hometown restaurant. I don't think I have one anymore. My favorite hometown restaurant was a place called Deli House, which doesn't exist anymore. And it's a place that, like, I don't know. When I was growing up, when I was in like my early 20s, late teens, early 20s, there was just this sort of culture of like kind of going to restaurants and sitting and just having coffee after coffee. It's like coffee house culture kind of. But Deli House was sort of this little diner right in the center of this place called Kenmore Square, which is right over by Fenway Park. Actually, it's around the corner from Fenway Park. And it was like this little basement, like a little basement restaurant that was basically just like flapjacks and crappy coffee diner. And we used to hang out there all the time. So that would have been my favorite, but they closed down a few years ago. So
damn,
they no longer exist.
All right. Rest in peace.
But I've been away from Boston for so long. I don't even know what is there anymore.
In LA, what's your favorite restaurant?
Oh, I don't have just one favorite restaurant, but I mean, honestly, this is going to be a really cheesy answer, but for drinking and stuff, I really like my own bar, Cole's. It's like a regular spot to go, and it's really comfortable. And every time anybody walks in there, you're likely to meet, 5 or 10 people that it's like Cheers. It really is. It's like Cheers with better drinks. And that's always great because that you can like walk in and have like a good conversation and hang out with people that Other than that, as far as like restaurants, there's a place called Baco Mercat, which is really fantastic Spanish food. A place called Bestia, which does really fantastic, very authentic Italian food that I just freaking love. There's a seafood joint, which is a Michelin star restaurant, which is kind of pricey, but I really like it, called Providence, which I go to quite a bit. And then the place that I really miss the most is this little French joint from this chef named Ludo. His restaurant is called Petit Trois, and it is just like this little tiny bistro, like kind of French style bistro that makes the best frickin' steak you'll ever have. And I think that might hands down be my favorite kind of joint to eat right now.
Oh man,
getting hungry.
It's so good.
So hungry right now.
I think I have to get takeout tonight from that place. I'm talking about it.
All right, ghost stories. Do you have any good ones?
Yes, dude. Okay, you guys are seeing I'll pull up a picture of the Cole's Ghost.
Oh shoot!
Cole's is the oldest bar in LA, and it's the oldest public house in LA. It's actually not the oldest bar; it's the second oldest bar in LA, and it's been in constant operation since 1908. And you bet your ass there are ghosts in there. Let me see if I can pull up this photo really quick, and I will show you. This is a 100% authentic photo.
I believe you.
Of a ghost inside Cole's.
Okay, what?
Like that person?
You see?
Behind the person.
Behind the person.
Oh shoot!
Oh snap!
That's not okay.
No.
Looks
Yeah,
like
and it's crazy. It looks like a skull or something, right? Like it
Yeah.
looks like a skeleton person or
I was
something. It's
thinking
really
like
crazy.
some dude from the Men in Black or something. He's got like a little
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. He does kind of has that. Well, he kind of has that old timey sort of. Looks like he has like a white shirt with a tie and a suit jacket, and then he has like a black hat on.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like somebody that would be like working in some of the offices around there around the turn of the century. It's really crazy. But then also like, you know, there are also things about Kohl's that I kind of experienced. Like you have to go into the bowels. It's part of this building called the Pacific Electric Building. And it is it used to be the start and stop of the Red Car line. So there was an above ground train called the Red Car line that went all over downtown and then to Venice Beach, which is all like way out west, LA County, and then also to Hollywood. And it stopped running in 1976, I believe. But it was like, so Kohl's was the start and stop of that place, and it had a lot of very famous, you know, kind of and infamous regulars like Mickey Cohen, which was a really big gangster, LA gangster, and then also Charles Bukowski used to drink there all the time, and so it's been just in operation. There's all sorts of crazy things. Anyway, you got to go into the bowels of the building because Kohl's is sort of the kind of not the basement because the basement is now like a garage, but it's like it's like below the ground and it's the very first sort of level of the building. And then it's like a big, you know, apartment building on top of it. And so to get to the trash cans to throw things out, you have to go back out the back and then down this really creepy hallway, like this, like kind of like creepy hallway and then another creepy hallway and then down a little bit further. And then you get into the kind of trash chute place. And every time I would walk down there, I would feel like the sensation that I was being followed and watched, although like it's a very long, skinny hallway with no places to duck into. So you just like keep turning your head back and looking and nothing is there. And then, you know, things would go missing around the bar with no explanation and like cold spots and stuff. Like that place is super haunted.
Oh man. I believe you. Yeah,
super haunted.
We ask that question to all of our guests. I'd say what, like 75% of them usually don't really have anything. So
yeah,
around there.
I would say the ones that do are always ones that have had bars in operation for like over 80 or 90 years. Those are always the ones that have ghost stories. So definitely, yeah, being a historic building brings ghosts 100%.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know, especially ones that have been running for a really, really long time, you know, ones that have been just continually operating. I just don't think that there can be anything but like there's just no other option than having just a bunch of like, I don't know what it is, like psychic impressions on the space time or something like that sort of kind of leads to ghosts, but they're definitely there and it's definitely creepy. And I didn't, you know, the good news about Kohl's is that there's always someone in the building. It is very few hours where everyone is completely gone because the kitchen is constantly prepping for French dip sandwiches, which is like, you know, it's like they're the originators of the French dip. So, you know, there's like, it's like we close down, let's say we close down at 2 and then the bar staff closes for about an hour and a half. So you're out of there at 3:30, right? Then everyone's gone. But then at 6 o'clock in the morning, new people come in. So there's only a few hours where there's nobody there.
Right. All right. What is the most thrill-seeking thing you've ever done?
I don't know if I've got any really good thrill-seeking stories, you know, other than that, just like like when I first started snowboarding, the first day that I got on a snowboard, I was a pretty big skateboarder when I was a kid. So the first time I got on a snowboard, I was like, I got this. And I like did the bunny trail a couple of times and then like went to a black diamond and broke my wrist.
Oof.
Other than that, dude, I don't know if I've really I've never like jumped out of planes or like, I don't know. I'm pretty afraid of heights. So I don't like I would never like base jump or sky jump or bungee jump or anything crazy like that.
No jumping.
No jumping off tall things for me. Yeah. Other than that, like, I don't really know. I don't know. Like if I've like done any real daredevil-y stuff. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little boring in that way.
I mean, snowboarding's pretty up there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It isn't like, was it diamond or what was it, the level?
It was a black diamond trail, just like the hardest trail. So basically like, I'm just going to go down the hardest part of the mountain. And I actually didn't do that bad, but I did end up breaking my wrist toward the end of the run. So
just minus breaking the wrist, you basically did a full black diamond run. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, for the first time out, that's not bad. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I did break my wrist though, so there's that.
How'd you, what was like the sequence of events that led to your wrist breaking?
There was just this one part of the run that had like really like weird choppy snow, where like there was just like a bunch of, I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe it, just like a bunch of mounds. So sort of like almost like sand dunes, but like snow. Mm-hmm. And I just like lost my footing and I like fell forward and my wrist was bent this way and it just cracked it and just like bent it in. So that sucked for my friends though, because it was like it was like I did the bunny trail twice, then I got on the Black Diamond Trail, then I broke my wrist, then they had to take me to the hospital. So it was like kind of ruined everybody's snowboarding day.
I do got one last question.
Yeah.
All right. What's something you'd recommend to anyone that wants to get more into cocktail recipes?
I would say, first of all, don't be afraid of trying things. And, you know, I would get like, there's like a couple of go-to, you know, kind of beginners books, and I would start kind of reading up on those, you know, finding recipes on the internet. Like, you know, I had a friend named Dave who, was a bartender, but he worked at like a Wolfgang Puck joint and they didn't have the best cocktail list. And he literally just went to YouTube. This was like before there was a lot of channels around actually, but he just like went to YouTube and there's a couple, you know, kind of books on classic cocktails and just taught himself how to bartend and became one of the better bartenders in the country. I would say that, you know, you should start with the classics, you know, before you start, you know, kind of learn the rules first before you break them. And I wouldn't rush into creating, you know, my own cocktails or like your own cocktails, because I think that you really need to sort of develop your palate for taste. It's like, you know, really being able to read the balance in things. And I think that just comes with like a lot of repetitive tasting. But yeah, start with the classics, I would say, you know, and like learn to make a really good old fashioned, learn to make a really good Manhattan, taste through everything, try to decipher all the tastes, be really intentional about that so that you can sort of train your palate to all of the different senses and sort of try to figure out what you like about each cocktail, you know, and that is what's going to help you develop kind of your own style if you're really serious about doing it. Even if you're just serious about doing it at home, you know, those little kind of specific things, not cutting corners, and really those little specific things are really what is going to make your cocktail game better than anyone else's, I think.
Love it.
Right on. Well, Leandro from the Educated Barfly, it's been a pleasure, man, and I appreciate having you on the show, man.
Hey, thanks, guys. I really appreciate you guys asking me to do this. It was a lot of fun.
All right, After Hours Nation, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to stay updated, you can check out our site at afterhourscast.com. Don't forget to tune in next Tuesday morning for our next episode. After Hours Nation, stay thirsty, my friends.